Hello, football fans, and welcome to another year of the Cory Sauter Show here at Studio One and at SMSUmustangs.com. I'm your host, Kelly Loft, Athletic Communications Director at Southwest Minnesota State University. And once again, we talk Mustang football. We'll take a look at highlights throughout the season, preview each week's game, and get great insight from the head coach, Cory Sauter, once again here on the Cory Sauter Show as the 2011 edition gets underway. And joining us as always and every week obviously is the head coach, Cory Sauter, beginning his second season as the head coach at Southwest Minnesota State and fourth season overall as an assistant coach. And I know, Coach, we talked last year at this time and you're very excited, your first season in charge. It was a whirlwind few months there from being named the head coach and then having spring ball to the summer practice and starting up fall. And now here you are in your second season. I'm sure things still exciting, but a lot more calm this time around, a second time through for you as a head coach.
Well, you're exactly right. Last year we were trying to figure out who's going to be coaching all the different positions, trying to get our staff put together and just trying to get just everything organized more than anything. And a year removed now, we have everybody in place. We still have a couple new coaches that we were able to hire, primarily mostly graduate assistants, but second time through, much smoother, much more efficient, and I'm excited about the way our guys have worked up to this point, and so definitely excited to get the season started.
Well, again, the Mustangs open up the 2011 season on Thursday night, September 1st at Northern State. It is a non-conference game versus the Wolves, 6 o'clock kickoff at Swisher Field. It'll be the second straight year the Mustangs and Wolves have began the season. Last year, SMSU winning in Marshall 28-24. And again, the Mustangs having just the one non-conference game versus Northern, and then we'll start conference play on September 10th in Marshall versus the University of Marion. Coach, lots of things have changed since the last time we were on the air following the last game of the season last year against Concordia St. Paul. And we'll touch on a lot of the new players that are going to make an impact for the Mustangs this year. But you touched briefly on some of your coaches and some new staff members, full-timers, and some graduate assistants as well. Let's talk about your coaching staff this year. And again, a new full-time assistant, and Anthony Kerr, and talk about Coach Kerr, and again, some of your other graduate assistants that joined the staff since last spring.
Right. Well, Coach Kerr comes to Southwest with a lot of experience. He was at Millikan University, a Division III school, and he brings a lot of experience in the special teams area as well as the linebacker position. He has fit in extremely well with not only our team but within our community, and we're definitely pleased to have him aboard. He will be a guy that will make a big impact coming into the 2011 season. Graduate assistant-wise, we have Chad Simpson. He is going to coach our cornerbacks, and he is a guy that played the position, has been coaching very briefly, which most graduate assistants coming in don't have a ton of experience, but he is a guy that we're very, very happy to have with our secondary. He will learn a lot from Coach Gunther along the way. On the offensive side, we have Shane Ladegi, obviously a player who was one of our captains last year. And typically, a lot of times, you don't hire a lot of your former players. That's a tough transition for a lot of kids, just being a year removed from being a guy with the team and to a position where now you have to have some authority over those same particular players and friends. So he has made that transition very nicely. He is going to work with tight ends. He's also going to work with our strength and conditioning program. He was here all summer working with our guys, and we had about 35 players that were here this summer, and he was a big part of making that happen.
Yeah, coaching staff, a very good group of guys, as you mentioned. Christian Gunther, defensive coordinator, back, and Jeremy Darvaux on the offensive line, and Coach Kerr, as you mentioned, coaching the linebackers. And transitioning that now, you've done your practice. Now you go to game day situations, and talk about where the coaches are during the games, because that does make a difference. On you might have some coaches like to be in the box, some like to be on the field. What's your assignments for this year, and how does that come to the decision making on who goes in the box or who stays on the field during game days?
Well, we break it up offensively and defensively, and so offensively, obviously I'll be on the field. Coach Darvaux as well as Coach Rourke will be the three of us on the field. Up in the box will be Ladegi and Coach Maroc, and so we have we have the luxury of having 5 offensive coaches this year, with the addition of Coach Ladegi being a position coach this year. So with on the field, the biggest part with that is making sure we're looking at guys in their face and seeing how they're reacting to certain situations, being able to explain things out on the field where the guys up top in the box are going to be our eyes and ears as far as what's going on. So we each have responsibilities as far as what we're looking at. So for example, if we have a run play, Coach Darvo is going to look at a certain area. A lot of times it's going to be the call side or the point of attack. Up top, we'll have one of our coaches look at the back side of the play. Coach Rourke, our receivers coach, is going to look at our wide receivers, the way they block the play. And then obviously I'll look at our quarterback and just the general defense in general. Coach Maroc typically will record all of our plays that we call and also write down the defenses that we see within that play. And that's just a typical run play. Now if it's a pass play, things change a little bit. So Coach Darvo is going to look at the pass protection to his side of the field. We'll have another coach up in the box look at the far side of the field as far as the protection part of it. Coach Rourke, our receivers coach, is going to look at the routes and making sure we're running the proper routes and we're making the proper conversions. I'll look at primarily the read part of it. So really the 5 of us, we each have an assignment, whether it's a run play, pass play, whether it's coming towards us or away from us on the field. That way we're all not looking at the same thing, and then someone asks a question and we all just look at each other thinking what just happened. So we want to try to minimize that as much as possible. On the flip side, Coach Gunther, our defensive coordinator, likes to be up in the box. He likes to see everything, so he's going to be up top. We like to have a full-time coach down on the field as well, so Coach Kerr will be our full-time coach down on the field, obviously working with special teams as well as our linebackers. We have Coach McCarthy down on the field. He handles a lot of our signals and those sorts of things, as well as substitution. And then we have Coach Simpson up in the box as well. So we have a pretty good mix there. Two up top, 2 on the bottom on the defensive side, and then all that correlates as well with all the different special teams.
Yeah, a lot goes into it. That's just on game day, and you put all that practice planning together and getting ready for games, and it all works out on the field. And of course the guys that have to execute whatever the coaches put together are the student athletes. And Coach, let's talk about this year's squad. A lot of newcomers on this year's team, pretty young squad, a senior group of about 10 players, but some returning guys are some key players in returning spots as well. But let's start on the offensive side of the football, and everybody always points toward the quarterback. Who's the quarterback going to be? And obviously we have a new one this year with Ryan Radican leaving the program, graduating, and now it's Tyler Prashon, the upperclassman junior quarterback, taking the reins over, and a guy that's had some experience, has started one game in his career. Let's talk about the progress that Tyler has made from last spring all the way now to this fall camp.
Right. Well, we've had some really good quarterbacks that have come through this program over the past several years. When I got here in 2008, Josh Shedlick was a senior, very productive quarterback. Ryan Radican the past 2 years. So with that, there wasn't too many opportunities, for Tyler, and he's been very patient. He's been sitting in the wings, understanding that at some point he's going to get an opportunity, and he didn't know when that opportunity would be. But he has battled all spring, all summer, all fall to get better, put himself in position for this starting position, and I'm excited for him. He is a natural-born leader. He gets everybody around him playing at a high level, and I think that's probably one of his best attributes, is just his overall leadership ability. He has the physical tools, he has the mental capacity to really understand and grasp a game plan, and he's not going to do make a lot of stupid mistakes. He's going to try to manage the game as far as not turning the football over, and really putting us in good situations when we have to. And then behind him, Charlie Kern, a redshirt freshman from Belle Plaine, Minnesota. He is a guy that's pushed him all the way along, and a very athletic quarterback. Again, he doesn't have any college experience as far as playing. He redshirted last year. So those will be our top two guys at that position, and I feel very comfortable really about both of them.
And the other skill positions that they'll be handing the ball off to on the running back side, you have Warren Matthews and Gannon Moore, a pair of juniors that have really excelled during their first 2 years playing here at Southwest Minnesota State. And I think you're very comfortable with either running back handling the ball here throughout this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably our strongest position, our running backs. And both those backs, Gannon Moore and Warren Matthews, have proved that they're very reliable guys that can break a big one at any point. So we have to find ways to get them the ball as much as possible, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it always has to be a run play. We'll try to keep those guys involved because they've been through a lot of battles and wars over the last couple of years, and we want to feed them the ball as much as we can, and it would be stupid for us not to do that. Young guys, Tyler Tondrum, a guy that redshirted last year, will be someone that's very talented, has a lot of speed, as well as Caleb Burns, and Caleb's looked very, very good. He's a bigger back that can potentially play a fullback position as well. So I'm really happy with that position. Those four guys all could come in and play for us.
And then on the wide receiver part, lost some players last year that led the team in receptions, and Brett Ballantyne, who graduated, but a pretty good group returning as well with Anthony Dean, who showed some signs last year, caught a touchdown pass a couple late in the season, and you've got him back, and Brett Wickett, a very good receiver as well, two of the veterans, so to speak, and also some newcomers as well, a couple of junior college transfers and a four-year transfer that should make a difference here for the guys on the outside.
Right. Well, Anthony Dean is one of those guys that's just night and day. We've mentioned that before. A couple years ago, he struggled a lot of his route running. Now he's starting to understand concepts. He's understanding just the technique involved with the position, and he is just so much better now. And we're happy to have him. He's a tall guy that can run, make plays, go up and jump for balls, and so we're very happy to have him as one of our wide receivers. At our other wide receiver position, we do have Tyler Erickson, a guy that came in at spring and worked extremely hard all through spring and really fought all the way through fall camp to win that starting spot. And so we feel very solid. He's a bigger kid, he's thicker, he's about 215 pounds, and so we're happy with the way he's been playing. With our two slot receivers, we have Wickett and Abe Koss. Those two guys are really just mirror images of each other. They're both about the same size. They both run about the same speed. They're very, very quick, elusive, and we feel very comfortable with either one of those players going in the ball game. I mean, we really want to keep both of those guys involved and not have to sideline either one of those guys.
And then, of course, in the offensive line, important positions as well, kind of the key to the whole entire offense, and you've got some veterans returning there as well. Brian Rodas at the tackle position, and honorable mention all-conference last year. Also back at tackles, John Cox, and you have Jake Thiel and Justin Knockmoose, a guy that'll probably get some snaps this year, and Brandon Puffer, a couple of guys that have been waiting in the wings, but guys that could make a difference. But I think you also have some junior college transfer as well, so you feel pretty confident, I think, on the offensive line as well, with having two deep at pretty much every position.
Right. You look across the board on our offensive line, really all those guys can play, and some of them just don't have the experience within our system. But the nice thing is our offensive tackles are guys that have played before, that have started. So it's always nice to have that exterior taken care of for the most part. As we work ourselves in, Brandon Puffer at the center spot, I mean, he is a big, strong, physical center. I mean, a 300-pound center that will definitely make us good down the road here. So we're excited about that. Our guards, Thiel's started before at left guard. He has looked very, very good throughout camp. And then when you look at the right guard spot, Justin Knockmoose, he's one of those kids that very, very hard-working kid. Wasn't heavily recruited out of high school. We brought him in a low scholarship. We ended up increasing his scholarship because of his production, and here he earned a starting spot. Behind him we've got Austin Nichols, the junior college player. he is right in behind him. So whether or not, how things shake out, at some point someone may get dinged up a little bit. We feel very comfortable, some shape or form, of fitting some of those backups in right behind them.
It should be an exciting part of the game this year, obviously, the offense. You are watching the Cory Sauter Show here on Studio One and at SMSUmustangs.com. I'm Kelly Loft, along with the head coach, Cory Sauter, and we've talked about the offense. Now let's switch over to special teams. And obviously, freshman last year, Mike Wink, had an outstanding rookie season for SMSU, doing double duty, both the place kicking and punter as well. He was the second-team all-conference performer as a punter, and he returns. That obviously helps, and you also have a couple other veterans that are coming off injuries. Lance Schuweiler will be back, and also Charlie Clavercamp, all battling there for the place kicking and duties. And it's nice to have those guys that with experience come back.
Right. It's not like we're having a bunch of incoming freshmen and trying to figure it out. Mike Wank, we expect a lot out of him. Second team all conference, and he's going to be someone we can rely on. In our punting game, whether it's getting us some better field position in the punt game, trying to pin somebody just like we did against Augustana, being able to pin inside the 10-yard line. So we feel very confident with him working that end of it. He will also work our field goal units. Now we have to definitely get better at our field goals. We didn't make a field goal last year, and hopefully we can get more touchdowns than field goal attempts. But and then probably on our kickoff unit, we'll probably have Lance Schuweiler working that end of it, and he has a very strong leg and has been looking very solid in camp. And so having those guys around, they really are preparing to do all types of kicks. They all do kickoffs, they all do punts, they all do field goals. So whether or not we shouldn't have anybody hurt, but if for some reason something did happen, the next guy should be ready to go.
I want to move over down to the defensive side as we preview the upcoming game on Thursday versus Northern State in Aberdeen, South Dakota. We look on the defensive side, and a couple of veterans that really have been anchoring that defense, and that's John Kirschberg, a senior linebacker, and you also have Levi Reef at safety. A couple of seniors, captains leading the way here for the Mustangs on the defensive side.
Well, on the defensive side, it's nice having Levi Reef back there and Stupka, both of our safeties. And within our defense, our safeties are essentially our quarterbacks on defense. They make a lot of the calls. They want to make sure everyone's in place, and having two guys that have been through a lot of battles before definitely helps the matter. Now on the outside, on the corners, we're going to have essentially two new faces out there with Lawson Starr and Durante Smith. And one thing about Lawson, he has really improved since last season. He had some injury issues last year, and he just looks night and day from where he was last year. And so we're excited. We're looking for big things out of Lawson. Durante, big, tall, physical corner that can run, and so I feel much better at that position than going into last spring. As far as our linebacker situation, we did move Phil Bradle over. He was one of our running backs, fullbacks. He came into my office during the spring and wanted to find out, he's going to be a senior. He wanted to find out what's the best way for him to contribute. He felt very strong about playing linebacker. In fact, I tried to talk him into staying on offense, and he felt very strong about playing on defense. And lo and behold, he definitely came through, and it was actually a position we needed, someone to step up, and he did that. And so I'm excited for Phil and his senior season. Kirschbergen is Kirschbergen. He's always going to be around the ball, making plays, smart player, instinctive, very productive player. So I think we're going to be rock solid there. At the middle linebacker position, we have J.J. Bobowitz, and he was a guy that we've had at defensive end on the D-line, and making that transition. He played some linebacker in high school, and then we had to move him, but just because of injuries and things, we had to put him at defensive end. I don't think he was too excited about playing defensive end, but we ended up moving him back now to middle linebacker, and he's looked pretty solid in camp. In fact, he really stood out, numerous days on that. So I think we're pretty solid there. with our first group, and you know, I think we'll build from there. As far as D line, you know, we have some guys that have played there too. You know, with Randy Erickson in the inside, Ben Peterson. Those guys are very active. They're tough to. They move extremely well, and you have to in this league, getting off blocks and chasing down screens, you name it. And then on the outside with Schollmeyer, you know, and Iverson, you know, two physical players I think that can have breakout seasons for us. And so you look at our starting defense, very, very solid. Behind that, we have some areas where we need to get better at, but for the most part, you know, it's just lack of experience more than anything.
And of course, getting that experience, just got to get out there and play, and they'll find out soon enough against the Wolves on Thursday night. As the Mustangs wrapping up now 3 weeks of fall practice. You had a great couple of weeks of fall camp, then school has started, and now you're in game preparation. A short week, but obviously, which is nice because the first game you could kind of adjust your week, you know, even make it a full 7 days to prepare for Northern State. But let's talk about fall camp, Coach, and everything that's gone into that, and what's really impressed you most of your squad since you reported on August 10th all the way now to just 3 days away from the first game. What's the thing there? It just seems this year, camaraderie of the team and just the excitement is really high for this year's squad.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mentioned to our coaching staff and even to our players, I said something's a little bit different with this group than the other ones that we've had in past years. Now, whether or not that translates into more wins or not, I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball. But I do know that just the overall attitude and team chemistry has been solid. I mean, I haven't seen this for a long time since I've been here, and so I'm excited. Really, just their focus level. They come out to practice. There's only one day during the entire fall camp where we had to start practice over, and you know, so credit to those guys. Part of it's the leadership. Part of it is just the overall group of guys that we have, and it's a good, solid group. They've been battling. They understand that if they don't meet a certain requirement, you know, we're going to just go ahead and start everything over. And I think that has helped them stay focused. And but I'm very pleased. And part of it too, we've been cutting back a little bit on some of the contact part of it during fall camp. We want to be as fresh as possible on our first game, and especially early in the season, trying to make sure we're staying healthy so that as we get down the stretch, we can get guys to play the majority of the season. So I think that's been part of the whole transition.
Again, the Mustangs starting up August 10th was their first day of fall camp. Had a couple of 2 weeks of fall camp before school started, 3 two-a-day practices, and now getting ready for the season opener on September 1st versus Northern State. And we talked about, Coach, a lot of the players that are going to see some time, but you do have over about 109 guys on the roster, 110 players, a lot of newcomers, and we each talk about this every year. There's always a handful of guys that may get to play as true freshmen, and that's the situation this year. And obviously you haven't made that decision yet, but there are a handful of guys that could play because of necessity, having you know, some depth issues and whatnot. But obviously they performed well during fall camp as well. I mean, how many guys could you possibly, you know, maybe see play as true freshmen this year?
You know, I would say probably 3, 4 at the most, but at our wide receiver position, Adam Olson, one of our wide receivers, and Jordan Cross, both will have an opportunity to play this year, as well as Marshall's Nate Warner. He's playing, he came in as an offensive lineman. In high school he played guard and played middle backer. We brought him in initially as an offensive lineman, as a guard. He was down the depth chart just because we had so many upperclassmen that are going to play. He tested out extremely well. You know, he's a bigger guy that can run and move, and we had a need on the defensive line, and you know, he made the transition very, very well. He's a guy that's probably going to have to play for us this year, and we're excited. I mean, he's a talented athlete, and it just so happened to work out that the numbers and his ability the combination of the two will allow him to get on the field this year.
Yeah, it should be exciting to see who can step up here for the Mustangs as we talk about a non-conference game on Thursday. Next year we'll have all conference games. All 11 games will be conference as the conference expands in 2012. But this year, non-conference game versus Northern State, and then the conference season begins on the 10th of September. Egg Bowl here in Marshall taking on the University of Marion. Before we wrap up the show, Coach, we've talked about the conference and how difficult it is from top to bottom. You know, again, national champion Minnesota Duluth returning this year, and you've got a team that probably gave them the best game in the playoffs, and that was Augustana. They're on the schedule. You have Winona State with several transfers, and Concordia St. Paul went to the Mineral Water Bowl. St. Cloud State to the playoffs and won a playoff game. And this league is very difficult top to bottom, and it should be again this year as well.
Yeah, it is. It's stacked, and Augustana's ranked number 9, and haven't looked through all the rankings, but bottom line is it's a very, very competitive conference. If you are a football player, if you're a competitor, I mean, that's what you want. I mean, if you're coming out of high school, you want to play against the best, and you might be the best player, but us as a group, now we're trying to find a way to become one of those better teams. And in order to do that, you need a lot of good individual players that believe in the team concept, that believe in having the right attitude, and believe in not having any excuses. And that's really our motto: team attitude and no excuses. And guys buy in. Enough guys that do that are going to make a difference. And it's one of those projects you like to happen for it to happen this year. If it does, great. If not, we have a big group that we brought in this past year. Almost half of our roster is incoming players. So we want to really build with those guys and use the leadership of our upperclassmen and really make our program something to be proud of.
It should be exciting to watch the Mustangs on Thursday, again taking on Northern State, 6 o'clock kickoff in Aberdeen as the Mustangs begin their 11-game schedule on the road. They have 5 home games this year. We've had 6 for about 6 or 7 years, but worked out this year where Northern State having to return that game from last year when they played in Marshall. So a 5-game home schedule. Some great games this year, some great events. We got Egg Bowl and Homecoming and the Shrine Game, so it should be fun throughout this 2011 season. And again, starting up Thursday night in Aberdeen versus Northern State. And of course, you can keep up with the Mustangs all season long at SMSUmustangs.com. Stats and videos and stats, information, rosters. Go to that SMSUmustangs.com, and you can get all the information here, of course, each week on the Cory Sauter Show. As we look back, next week's show, we'll have highlights from each ball game and preview the next game as well, and that'll happen throughout this entire 2011 season. For the head coach, Cory Sauter, I'm Kelly Loft. Thanks for watching our first episode of the Cory Sauter Show here at Studio One. Special thanks to Jess Nelson here in the city of Marshall for letting this get on the air here on Marshall Local Cable Access. Till next time, go Mustangs!